Hi, I am Nick Shell, a certified Enneagram coach. I'm sharing this video with you to officially explain how I was so deceived, how I was so misguided in thinking that I was an Enneagram 8 or a 7 or a little bit of both, when in reality I was actually a 6. How could that possibly make sense? Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Thanks to that 5 wing I have as an actual 6, right? So this is the book that I give credit to helping me realize this, thanks to the breakdowns they have of each of the subtypes. Of course, this book I'm referring to is The Honest Enneagram by Sarah Jane Case. If you would like to purchase this book, click the link. There's one right there. You can buy it off of Amazon, probably cheaper than I paid for it. Also, if you'd like to learn which Enneagram you are, you can take a test for free. It takes about 10 minutes. There's a link right there. And then lastly, 4 people so far have actually become certified like I am for Enneagram by actually watching my videos and clicking another link right there where you can do that. So all kinds of stuff for you right there. Let's get to it. Let's understand how someone can actually be a 6, even though a lot of people see them as an 8 or a 7. And specifically in my case, how you would actually test as an 8 or a 7 and never test as a 6, but you actually are a 6. So let's get to it. Again, thanks to this book, they have a breakdown of each of the subtypes, all 3 subtypes, for all the numbers. So going back to, let's say, last Thanksgiving 2021, I take the test and it says that I'm a 7. Okay, then I take another test and it says I'm an 8 a couple months later. And most people who know me and know Enneagram bought it. Yeah, that makes sense. I myself, okay, so I guess I'm a tougher guy than I thought, right? Well, it turns out those tests were accurate in being able to figure out my subconscious, how I saw myself. And that's the thing about taking these tests. I mean, they're a test. They're not 100% valid. They can't be. Why? Because we can deceive ourselves. We can have different versions of who we think we are when we take these tests. So when we answer the questions, you know, what do I care about what people think about me? Well, see, that was one of the questions. Ultimately, I answered a certain way, and now I understand, as a true 6, that do I care what people think about me? Well, do I care that they think I'm cool? No. But do I care if they see me as competent and confident? Well, yes, I do. I definitely care about that. And that's the difference between a 6 and an 8, I suppose. So it was little questions like that I answered, seeing myself in a certain way, but it was really my subconscious projecting that. Because if you are what I am, which officially, let me just say it, officially I am a 6-wing 7, my subtype is sexual and then social. Well, and on top of that, I'm a counterphobic, and that's really the key word, counterphobic. Instead of, like a lot of 6s, they externalize their fear and they, me, I'm the opposite. I want to challenge my fear so that I don't feel empowered by it, which you can understand. That's why I thought I was an 8. So let's start there. Let's look at the subtype of an 8 that I thought I was when this all started, before I started reading this book. So we're looking at the subtypes of an 8. If we look at the social subtype of an 8, here's what it looks like. Service-minded. Granted, I'm always making these videos trying to help you guys. Loyal and friendly. I'm a very loyal person. I have been married for 14 years. I've been at the same job for 4 years. Before that, 13 years before they went out of business. But before I have my Jeep now, which I've had for 3 or 4 years, I worked at the same company for 12, 13 years before it went under. So I have this streak of being very loyal. It made sense. Friendly? Yeah, I mean, people see me as friendly. People don't see me as rude. Aware and protective of people being exploited? Absolutely, that lines up to me. Less quick to anger than other subtypes? Absolutely. I don't express it, even if you can sense it. I don't curse people out or anything. Can find themselves very busy with projects? You better believe it. I work a full-time job. I have a family, and I'm still having time for my side hustle here. Possesses a blind spot where their own needs for love are concerned? Absolutely, that makes sense. It's hard for me to say out loud, hey, I need to feel loved, and here's what I need. It's hard for me to say that. Why? Because it probably makes me feel weak. And then it says, can resemble a type 1 or 9. Well, when I first heard about Enneagram, everything about 1 made sense. And that's originally a couple years ago, before I got into Enneagram, 1 made the most sense. Oh, okay, I'm a 1. So you can see how that subtype of an 8, a social subtype, made a lot of sense, that I would be an 8-7. So that's who I believed I was for quite a while. Well, now I'm going to go back a chapter, because originally, when I first took a test, it said 7. So let's look at the subtype of a 7 that would make sense for me, that describes my personality. So it is actually the self-preservation. And you can see how this could be me. So imagine me, instead of an 8-wing 7, imagine me as a 7-wing 8 and having this self-preservation subtype. This is what it looks like. The most practical and concrete of the subtypes. I'm a very practical guy, very pragmatic. Tends to form a family or a group of allies as a support group. Absolutely, yes, I do this, especially at work. I've noticed that. Great networkers. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I have always been doing, even if I'm not aware of it. Hedonistic. Okay, well that gets it. I mean, who am I to say, I'm not hedonistic, because then I become a liar? I don't know. Talkative and friendly. Hey, I can easily make these videos last a lot longer than 8 minutes if I needed to. I never run out of words to say. And then next on here it says grounded and earthy. I have no problem with that. And then it even says can seem like a type 6 or an 8. Like, okay, well, there's the 8. I'm a 7 that looks like an 8. I get it. But then this little seed was planted in my mind, but could also look like a 6. I thought, well, if I'm a 7, that makes sense. I have a 6 wing. So let me embrace that again with the whole loyalty thing. And someone at work had told me, they said, Nick, you do care what people think about you. And when I realized how they meant it, like, how do I care about people thinking about me? You know, as far as being helpful and, you know, of good service to other people, absolutely I care about that. So now we have to look at the subtypes of a 6, and that's where we find the true me. So that's what I'm doing right now in this book. I'm looking at the subtypes of that, and I'll share those. And this is finally where I've landed, where it all makes sense. But again, we're looking at that whole thing about how it is the counterphobic. So we're going to look at the 3 subtypes, and ultimately, keep in mind, I am actually what's called the sexual subtype, or the 1-to-1, most focused on building relationships with other people, but counterphobic. Instead of like the typical 6, oh no, it's more like, okay, I see what's going on. Let me see if I can figure out how to stop this or take care of this myself, so that I don't feel overcome by fear about it. So I'm always confronting fear. And again, this would be the sexual subtype of a 6. Here it is. Turns against fear and leans into strength. When feeling fear, leans into it and runs toward it. Bold and fierce. Often focused on being physically strong. I'm at the gym 6 days a week, and I run 2 miles a day, and I'm part of a men's fitness group. So yeah, I guess I'd qualify. Not to mention I have a Jeep, and I'm all about off-roading. Like, all of these things are starting to make sense now. Takes on an intimidating stance. A lot of people have even told me, Nick, you're terrifying. You seem intimidating. I don't mean to seem that way, but that's where some of that comes from, kind of an arms crossed situation. Needs to be contrarian and focuses on the opposite of the group. I've seen this at work even this past week. Someone asked for advice, and they asked the group, how do you do this? And as I'm typing my answer, I realized I did mine the complete opposite way of everyone else. And that's pretty typical of me. I often even refer to myself as a black sheep of the group, whatever the group is. Often likes to disrupt or stir up trouble. Now, I do it in a more playful way, because ultimately I'm learning that this version of a 6 likes to test the relationships, because that's ultimately what 6s are about, is this idea of security by building relationships. And then lastly, there it is, can look like a type 8. So there we go. I'm at peace with it. I'm 1 week into learning about this. And even as I write my new songs on this channel, you'll be able to see how that actually is. What is a 6-wing 7 with a sexual subtype and also counterphobic? It's someone who's ultimately always looking for what might go wrong and trying to prepare for that. Even in my Jeep, I have as a special hydraulic jack. I have all these tools in case I have a flat tire. I mean, it's interesting how I am. Even when it comes to security, I'm not afraid of, like, for example, bad things happening, but I always want to be prepared for them. So I'm always checking the doors more so than most people would. And that sort of thing, where I am focused on it. I don't think, oh no, what could happen? I want to stop the bad thing before it happens. And I'm understanding that better. So here's a preview. I get it now. This is who I am. Counterphobic 6. And the likeness of, and I want you to think about Robert De Niro in pretty much every movie he is. Circle of Trust, or when in The Good Shepherd, he's collecting a group of people to be strong. That's what he does. It's out of fear, not anger. Your comments belong right here.